at the beginning of the day and the end of the day and the meetings at night. That's hard work. And then as politicians, I mean, I had such an education. We had such an education. We lived in a rented home. 8 in the family, 6 kids, mom and dad. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a living room where we all lived, a front room that was a sitting room that seconded as a bedroom when the couch was pulled out, and most importantly, the kitchen.
Right on.
In the kitchen, that's where we learned. If my dad was here today, he would have done something I didn't do. He would have wrote down his words. He would have sat at the kitchen table because the man didn't have a den. He didn't have a study. He had a kitchen table. And the foolscap would be in front of him, and he'd pick up his pen, and he'd write. His writing is impeccable. Not anymore, but back then, impeccable. And he would write his words, and he'd be so methodical about it, because he was writing from his heart. And he wanted the people that heard those words to take something home with them so they could think about it. So that maybe, just maybe, 100 people in the room, 3 or 4 of them might act on those words. And he would read those words to my mother, his biggest critic. And the 2 of them together, when they were done, my dad would have his speech. And he would take that foolscap, and he would fold it very neatly. My dad was very neat, well groomed, not like his son. I did get a haircut, by the way. And he would put that foolscap, that speech, in his breast pocket of his jacket. And then he would go and give his speech. Now, typically, my dad didn't take that speech out. It's his words by his heart. It was there. It was like a safety. You know, it was there just in case he needed it, but he didn't need it because the words on that page were from his heart. He knew exactly what he wanted to say. And when he started talking, and we all watched him talk, my dad would, pardon me, walk across the stage. He'd pace, and he'd talk, and he'd look at each and every person in the room, and he'd try to connect. And then you know when he really got into it, because my dad wore glasses, he'd start moving his glasses. And then he'd just be looking, and he'd be talking, and the people would be listening. And then he was getting nervous, and this is why he had us there. He was getting nervous. He would put his right hand in his right pocket, and he'd start jingling whatever change or keys were in there. So loud sometimes that we're sitting down there going, easy, slow up on the keys. But he was just zoned in. He had so much to say. He had so much he wanted to see done. And he will be the first to tell you that he did not do it alone. And he wanted, I was with my father all day today. I listened to whatever word he could get out to make sure that I spoke a word or 2 of his. He wanted me to make sure that everybody in this room understood. And there are people in this room that know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Understood that whether you were a union activist, a political activist, a social activist, or all of the above, it was working with you that allowed my father to carry his message from the picket line to Queen's Park, and then to the factories and the workplaces so that the workers of this province could be safe. That's all he wanted. He wanted people's lives to be better. Not just my dad. You can't speak of my father and not speak of my mother. It's not behind every successful man there's a woman. It's not like that. In our home, it's beside every successful man or woman. That's how it works. That's how it works in this room. The connections being made here today, the conversations being here today. We attended every function in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I remember when the CCF members came from Saskatchewan when they won. And they came into our home and they sat at our kitchen table and they taught people like my father how to create the party, how to motivate people, how to connect. They taught them and they learned at that kitchen table. My dad had a small army of people that came constantly and sat at that table. And you know it's the 60s. The room is blue with smoke. Everybody had a cigarette. There was Black Label, Red Cap, MVO on the table. They're playing cards and they're talking politics to the wee hours of the morning. And they worked from the 60s until 1975 trying to figure out how to win with somebody who thought like them at Queen's Park. And they did it. We did it. And we need to continually do it. We keep forgetting every time you go to the hospital. I'll do it quick. I'm sorry, Mike, I have to do this. Every time you go to the hospital, 6 years ago. Sorry. Yes, 6 years ago. I'm a farmer. I wasn't. I am now. I got my face kicked in by a horse. And I mean kicked in. Every bone in my face is broken. I happen to be in the Cambridge. I happen to be at the Cambridge Memorial Hospital. I happen to have the best anesthesiologist and the best facial reconstruction surgeon in Cambridge come that day and fix me. It took 1.5 years and 5 surgeries. Universal health care paid for that. Can you imagine if I had to pay for that? People forget until they need. We got to keep reminding people. Don't wait till you need. Support it. That's important. My dad's message is simply this, and my mother's, and my family's. When we heard about this award, we were humbled because we just worked collectively to make one person's life better. We were grateful that Dad and Mom being so far away from the politics that people still remember. And we are deeply honored. And we're very pleased to be here today to speak for them. Thank you.